Oh, there we go. Okay. Jake, if you're listening, we've got the recording going, so you can go about your repairs.
Can you hear me all right, Michael? Because I don't have my headphones today.
Yes, loud and clear. Happy New Year, Costa.
Is this the first time we've talked since the New Year? Jeez.
I think so. We probably traded text messages or whatever. Yeah. Well, Barack is on the call from us. He's from Southern Florida, one of your favorite spots in the world, near West Palm Beach. But he may be on a ship right now.
I'm right on a ship right now. This is my cabin.
Wow.
Wow. That's in the Caribbean?
Yeah, we're in the Caribbean. We're headed towards Mexico right now.
Okay. We're going to be there next week.
I'm working. I'm not on vacation. It looks like I'm on vacation. I'm actually working.
Yep.
I'm thankful that the internet is working really well. So
it is,
because it's can get quite dodgy. That's why I turn my video off if you don't need my video, because it'll make it faster.
Great.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll be in Mexico next week.
And then Steve, is that you, Steve Barker?
Yes. Yep.
Hi. Good morning. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yourself?
Good. Not too bad.
But it's been quite a few weeks actually. This last week, I talked to a number of clients, and so many of them have got this the new COVID. So many people were sick. So I'm glad to hear both of you are healthy and Costa the same thing. Chris, I think you're on the call. Chris is one of my counterparts. He usually joins us on these calls. So thanks for joining. You know, Costa will tell a little story, his story about how we got to where we are today. What we're doing at Costa, I think is extremely exciting. And then we open it up for for questions and answers. So I'm going to pass this on to Costa, and thank you all for being here this morning.
Thanks, Michael. So the way we usually do this is I'll go into the how, the when, the why, the where, and then Michael will kind of curate questions. And these joint sessions have been really beneficial because just the diversity of people's experiences and culture and backgrounds has led to, some really thoughtful dialogue in regards to the business. So it's been a fun journey. I think at the end of the day, that's what franchising is about. Each store can kind of be a laboratory of innovation for the entire business. But just a little bit about me. My background is in finance. That's my educational background and my professional background. Before I did this business, I worked for TD Ameritrade, Merrill Lynch, and then lastly, T. Rowe Price. And I kept moving on within that system. And I found myself, I've always been entrepreneurial ever since I was a kid, selling stuff on the side of the road, things like that, trading cards with my friends. So it's always been in my DNA to kind of have that entrepreneurial side. So I thought to myself, I had a really good job at T. Rowe Price. I thought to myself, if I just open a business, maybe I'll scratch that itch. Maybe that'll, be what I need so I don't keep moving from place to place. I started looking at businesses that I thought were not skilled manager centric, meaning that if you're in a business where your manager or key employee is gone for the day or calls out sick or quits on you, and then you have to go in yourself, that was not something I was interested in. So that ruled out a lot of businesses, especially things like pizzerias where, your head pizza maker, if they're out, they're gone. And then you got to shut down for the day, or you got to hope for the best or go in yourself. So I looked at the quick lube business and I thought to myself, well, here's a business where the manager on their day off the store is run by the full timers, or a combination of the full timer and the part timer, or however it's structured. And I was like, this is a business that I think we could probably do where if the manager does leave on you, you can pull someone out from the ranks to keep continuity. So about 6 months into running the first store in Harrisburg, which I took over from an an elderly couple that was just, on their way out the door. I saw some massive gaps in the industry, and I thought that we could fix some of those gaps very easily by bringing the industry into kind of the 21st century. This was back in 2014. So Facebook boosted posts were called dark posts then, and there really was no other social media advertising besides Google AdWords, which at that point was pretty saturated and expensive. So I've always been kind of technology centric in terms of looking out for the best ways to get the name out there and do brand building and storytelling. So we had a lot of success. The store grew pretty rapidly. We opened a second store in a town called Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, which is a town of 6,000 people. We had success there, which made me think that, okay, now we validated the idea, the model. Let's keep this thing going. The third store was in Chicago, a suburb of Chicago. And so we really were testing the hands-off approach, because at the time, the most I could get out there was probably once or twice a month. And so what happened was, very early on in the history of the company, semi-absentee had been woven into the DNA of the business, because there was really no way around not being semi-absentee or even fully absentee, really. So we replicated that model again in Pittsburgh, and then we replicated it again in Youngstown with our first store that we designed from bottom up, from a UI UX perspective. And from there, I was very focused on being consumer facing, consumer centric. All of our goals and models were based around giving the consumer what they wanted. And I thought that our industry kind of deviated from that, because some of the larger players had been on top so long that it became more of a private equity play for those companies to sell large portfolios of locations to family offices and private equity. And so once we opened our 10th location, I started looking towards how do we make this a more operator friendly situation. And that's when we started looking at the things that kind of impeded people from being able to get into this business. Some of our competitors, their cost of entry is incredibly high. So we wanted to tackle the problems that we thought were keeping people from being able to be in the business. And that included the building itself. If any of you are familiar with commercial real estate, you can look online on CREXI.com and just search oil change, and you'll see the different brands and how much they cost. A lot of them act more like real estate companies than they do franchises, which is a model. Obviously, that's a McDonald's model, but that when you're not as known as McDonald's, it's not as great for the operator. So we created a building that allowed us to do our core service, which is the fast oil change. Because at the end of the day, our entire thesis is the consumer wants a fast, no frills oil change. They don't want to be burdened with all these other upsells, but at the same time, you need to make money to be in business. And so if you have a $1.5 million building and your mortgage is $6,000 to $8,000 a month, or your lease, if you're leasing, is $10,000 to $12,000 a month, that's a lot of oil changes before you even, get over that hill. Whereas, and then it puts you in a position where you have to sell other things in order to just make the top line revenue to be able to make your bills. So we came up with our building design in an effort to kind of resolve the building problem. Michael Sung just texted me, so I got to text him back. I apologize. I'm sorry about that, guys. I got distracted. So at the end of the day, we came up with our model so that we could stick true to the service that we believe is what the consumer wants. And I surrounded myself with people that have done this before. Michael is a great steward of the brand. Chris is a great steward of the brand. They have a great way of articulating what we're trying to achieve, because there is nuance involved. it's very easy for someone to look at this and say, well, what are you doing different? Why don't I just go to Firestone and get a $20 oil change? Why don't I just sign up with so-and-so? So the nuances are what make us different. And I believe they do a good job of relaying that. They also have so much experience between them, because at the end of the day, I've never franchised before, and I'm an operator at heart. One of the things that I think did lead to the success early on was I did put in a lot of boots on the ground work in the early stores before moving into a back office role. And I still to this day like operating, and I still will jump in and do the oil changes with the guys because I think it's a fun job, which has helped us with our employee retention. But that being said, when it comes to operating a franchise, I wanted to put myself with people that have been there and done that. And Sung and Michael and Chris have all been a part of organizations from emerging brands that have scaled to nationally known brands like Mako and 𝐐&𝐀. So, that's how we got to where we are today. And we do have our Discovery Day coming up, and the Discovery Day is the best place to get kind of the secret sauce. We go into vendor relationships, we go into operational stuff. For this call, though, if we could kind of keep it macro level questions, I think that would be best, because the Discovery Day really is intended to be where we get into the nitty gritty of the business. So, Michael, if you want to curate questions, I've got 15 minutes, 16 minutes.
Okay. So Stephen Barak, I've only started working with him recently, and the timing may not be perfect for it, but certainly both of you are welcome to join us, and I will send you an agenda to give you an outline of what we cover and the dates. It's coming up in about 2 weeks. And then Jake, I believe if you're listening, able to listen, I think you and Drew are confirmed to join us. And that is a great event. What's nice about it too is we have candidates from coming around the country with different experiences. And it's a very intellectual and I think interesting meeting for a day and a half. But why don't we go ahead and ask questions? Let's just take it in turns. I think that's a good way to go. Steve, if you have any questions, if you would like to go first, and then we can move backwards and forwards. And then Jake, I'll just check with you in a couple minutes, maybe next, and see if you're listening in and if you have a question. So Steve, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I'll give you a little background. I'm similar in that, I run another business, and I'm not looking for, something that I'm going to be doing 40, 50 hours. I spoke to Michael, I think last week. I'm actually in, we own a couple of trampoline parks. I'm in one right now. And I guess kind of the question is, in terms of, kind of day-to-day as a franchisee, this is a franchise business. I know kind of the ins and outs of, franchisor-franchisee relationship, but what do you see kind of as a franchisee, the typical day, assuming, owning more than one unit, how is your day look? Obviously you're developing a franchise, so it's a little bit different than, a franchisee would be, but like you said, you're in the spaces, a couple times a month, or is it, initially it's, more time commitment, is that safe to say?
Yeah. So we recently bought a flex office space that has a large warehouse, because we do also have a large line of private label products. And I have my own office for the first time since I worked at T. Rowe Price. And it's kind of foreign to me, because I've largely over the past several years have been kind of doing deals over oil tanks and just kind of like at restaurants and Starbucks. And I've never had a need for an office until we started franchising. And
Yep.
So on a day-to-day basis, what I had done before I had put people in place to do what I used to do, I would be to check in with the managers every morning on our group text. Inventory is done on every single Monday. I just quickly do a quality control of the inventory, make sure they're not over ordering. We have our time clock system alerts me when everybody's clocking in. So making sure all the stores are getting open on time, that takes 2 seconds. And then throughout the day, I'm sure it's not anything different than what you deal with, because I do view our business as a retail business first. So we deal with the ongoing customer service needs. So monitoring all the different social medias, Google My Business page, making sure that that's fine. And really, it's interesting. It's actually kind of funny. I've told this, Michael's heard this story before, but when we first thought about franchising, I went to my managers. I went to 2 of my territory managers and I said to them, I said, look, we're about to become a franchise. There's a lot of legalese involved. I'm going to be dealing with people on how to craft this document, and I need you guys to handle every incident in store for the next 2 weeks. Like, I cannot be bothered. And so about a week and a half in, I said to Michael, I was like, you know what? I haven't heard from my business in a week and a half. I don't know if I need to franchise. Maybe I should just go move to a beach somewhere and let these guys run the business. And so really, like, once you do get to the point where you can have a territory manager, then all of the duties are offloaded onto them. And that includes hiring and firing, running the ads, dealing with oil, you know, your main cogs are your oil filters and your bulk oil. So you just are managing those deliveries, you know, and so there's really not a lot of moving parts. We've stripped it down to its most basic form to make it as palatable as possible. And so we do feel as though we cater to both ends of the bell curve really well, to a 1 unit owner operator, but also to a 10 unit like portfolio play. But we do also believe in, you know, active involvement of the owner in terms of just being a part of the community, making sure that you're sponsoring your local football teams. You know, every touchdown in the third quarter is a Costa Oil touchdown. We sponsor a little league team here in Hanover, Pennsylvania. Those things endear you to the community because 85% of your customers come from within a 3-mile radius. You know, the nice thing about our business is brand equity almost means nothing, because you only go as far, you only go a certain distance for an oil change. And so when you win your market, it doesn't matter if there's Jiffy Lube or Valvoline. If you've won your market, if you won the hearts and minds of the people in your market, then you've won. It doesn't matter if your brand is emerging or established. And in a lot of instances, just due to the circumstances of the growth within our industry, the established players don't have great reputations to begin with. So you have that added benefit of you coming in. If they're the only horse in town and people realize there's a better mousetrap, that only benefits the process.
Great. But Barak, do you have a question?
I actually, I just have a couple of quick questions. I hope it's okay. How many stores can you have in one territory? Is one territory one store, or how does that work? As you know, I'm new, so some of this stuff I don't know. I haven't received an FDD or anything like, so I don't know what the rules are.
Yeah,
the territories are 3-mile radius, 50,000 people. Michael, I don't know if we have any provisions for multiple stores within a territory, but if there were single bays, I can't imagine that would be an issue.
Yeah, generally, you know, as the FDD states, yeah, it's one store, 1 unit per kiosk per 3, 4, or 5 miles, depending on the concentration of people. But we will move it out. We want to have at least 50,000 population of 50,000, or at least a 3-mile, and then we do have area development, or what we call a multi-unit development agreement, and that is anything over 2 units and above, and that gives you a specific, you know, a specific area. As an example, it could be, you know, from Fort Lauderdale up to, you know, West Palm Beach. Maybe there's 3 or 4 circles going up the coast there. That would be a multi-unit development agreement.
Okay. Yeah. So I'd have to, So so one territory is about 3 to 5 square miles.
It's a radius of 3 to 5 miles. And we
usually one kiosk per territory is the standard.
You're correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's what, and you had mentioned that, in terms of real estate and leasing and finding that area to put the kiosk in. Have you ever had a situation, or what could or would happen if, let's say a franchisee buys a franchise, but for some reason a piece of real estate in a parking lot or in a plaza or cannot be found? What happens in that scenario, or is that just a silly question?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. And, as an emerging brand, we haven't had this issue yet because we've only been franchising for about 10 months now, 9-10 months in terms of how long we've been selling contracts. But we are not in a position to put someone in default of their contract. So we'll probably just amend their, especially with the circumstances of the supply chain issues that are going on and coming off a very robust real estate market in certain areas of the country, such as South Florida, Houston, Austin, Texas, North Carolina, Atlanta, etc. So we're not going to kick anyone out of the system because they can't find something, unless they're constantly turning down viable sites without real cause. We use a master broker that does a lot of the site search. We'll put addresses in front of you to vet. At the end of the day, the real estate process is the franchisee's responsibility. But what we've seen is analysis paralysis on the end of the franchisee's part, where they're just overthinking it a little bit. I had a conversation this morning with one of our franchisees about a site in Charlotte, and he's like, well, there's a Firestone right there, which is why Firestone's at the top of my mind this morning. And I'm like, that only helps our model, because those full service garages, they use oil changes as a loss leader. And so we can't get into a situation where we're turning down a site because it's not checking off every single box. We do need to, be realistic about what we're trying to achieve here with the real estate process. And so, the landlords, with the exception of Frisco, where every landlord believes that Jerry Jones is the next phone call and that their property is worth way more than what it is, the landlords are receptive to this idea, especially if we target places where they're already looking for additional revenue, whether it's an outlot ATM or an ice vending machine. That shows that the landlord already has an appetite for this type of thing on their property. So, we'll get LOIs. It's just a matter of, does it make sense for what we're trying to do? And so eventually, eventually, as we get these stores open and we become more of a known brand and not a regional company anymore, and become more of a national company, we will have to put people in default of their franchise agreements if they're saying no to viable sites.
And so when you said that the real estate is the franchisee's responsibility, do we go out and find the location, or do we work with you to find the location and agree on it? Or how's that work exactly?
We offer a master broker program. So we offer tools, but ultimately at the end of the day, it is the franchisee's responsibility. This is not uncommon in franchising, and I'm assuming it's a liability thing. I would assume, but that would be, we would give the master broker program a try first. This is initially what happens when you onboard with us. You have a phone call with our team, and then we schedule a call with the master broker who we provide. And then after that, if the relationship with the master broker isn't working out, then we'll typically advise the franchisee to get a local broker who might have existing relationships within the different communities. They might know the developers, they might know who has, excess land. We do ultimately have to approve the site, but just speaking candidly, if I can make a store in Dillsburg, Pennsylvania, a town of 6,000 people work, if our model is designed to have success, in much larger markets, since it was originally designed for secondary markets. Before I started franchising, my whole goal was to be in secondary unserviced markets. And so franchising, obviously, we get a large, diverse group of people from different parts of the country. So we're in a lot of places that our original design was never intended to be, and I have no reason to believe they won't outperform the secondary markets.
Of course. And then finally, and I'll stop, the actual kiosk, the building of it, does the franchise, does Costa Oil help with it or give blueprints, or do we find our own project manager and architect, or does Costa Oil build it?
So we have a lease back program, and we're bumping up on 11 o'clock, so I don't want to go into it because we do go into that at Discovery Day in great detail. But our buildings are basically a prefabricated kit that are going to be put on a truck and delivered to the site. However, if you find yourself wanting to either buy the building yourself, or you have a contractor friend who can build the building, we can supply the building plans, and then there's nothing saying that you can't build your own building, but we do have a program in place for those who want to lease the building and without having to find a construction loan. And then our leasing program also involves a builder based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, that can deliver the site.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you so much. I'm assuming at some point maybe I might receive an FDD. It'll answer a whole bunch more of my questions.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. But Barak, I'll send you an email. We can set up a call. Hopefully we can talk again this week, and we can go through. I'll take you through the territory as well. And if it makes sense for you to come to Discovery Day, that'd be great too, if you're available. Costa, do we just have one more minute? I just want to check in with Jake and see if I know he's listening, and if he had a quick question. Okay, it looks like he's running backwards and forwards trying to get that furnace fixed. All right, Costa, do you your time is up. It's 8 o'clock. I guess thank you for doing that, Steve. I'll get in contact with you, and if you'd like to proceed further along the road here with us, we can arrange a call in the next couple of days, and certainly if it makes sense for you to come to the Discovery Day, we'd love to have you there as well.
Sure.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, Costa. Have a good week.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.